good captain, you only see him or her during the storm.
Where does Wyndham stand in the global landscape? If you can give us a few numbers of.
Look, we are the world's biggest franchise business. We have 9,200 hotels, 95 countries. We have 25 brands.
However, as a hotel owner, like, what are the advantages of me getting into a franchise versus a management? What is the fee difference? And what are the services which I will get? And let's talk about a typical Ramada hotel, because I think Ramada is the best known Wyndham brand in India.
It was the best time in my life. I said, yes, the GM of Ramada Diyarbakir is actually happy. So every GM of Wyndham is happy.
Would you call yourself the most fashionable man in the industry?
I don't know. That's for other people to say.
The beads, the watch, the glasses.
Yeah.
You're rocking all of that. One thing you hate about Nikhil.
No, about Nikhil.
Yeah.
What I hate about Nikhil?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Is he going to watch this? So what I hate about Nikhil, you know, I'll tell you an interesting story, and I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this. I don't care if it goes public. So.
What do you love about India and something which you dislike?
I am half Indian by now, I think. What I love about India is your resilience. In 4 days, she fell in love. Actually, she fell more in love with India than she's ever fallen in love with me, which makes me a bit jealous, but it is what it is.
Are you looking at acquiring brands in India as well?
We as a company, we love to buy brands. We never say no to a good deal. You know what working for hospitality looks like? You drive from home, you have a hunger, you take off your personal problems, you hang them on the hanger, you go in, you provide the best possible service with a smile, you finish your shift, you go back, you put your personal problems, and you go home. That's what hospitality.
So lastly, any advice you'd like to leave me with? So the nicest and the funniest man in the industry, I'd like to welcome Mr. Dimitri. Dimitri is heading Wyndham, which is the second largest hotel chain in the world in EMEA. He's the man who's doubled the size of Wyndham over the past, how many years, sir?
6, 7 years, I think.
That is crazy. We'd like to thank him for his time, and we'd like to start.
Good. Lovely to be here. What an introduction. I love that. I love that. Double the size of Wyndham EMEA. I hope you're right.
Absolutely, sir. So you always speak of family. You speak of the Wyndham family. You speak of the owners as a family. Can you tell us what's the reason behind that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to start with my own family. I don't want to get personal, but a lot of who we are resonates in terms of how you start in life, right? My dad, who I lost my dad at the age of 94 last year. My dad grew up in the Second World War. He lost his dad when he was 6 years old, so he was an orphan when he was 6 years old. He had 5 siblings, and he was the oldest, so he had to fight for survival for him and his mother and his kids. He lived through enormous poverty. He learned the hard way what life is all about. I think he kept on reminding both me, my brother, and my kids, and my brother's kids, that he first put his first real pair of shoes when at the age of 17. He didn't wear any proper shoes until the age of 17. He left mainland Greece and he went to Athens to find a job. He got hired as a busboy, and at the age of 94, he died a wealthy man. A wealthy man, not necessarily just wealth, material wealth, but a wealthy man with 4 + 2, 6 grandchildren, 2 kids that they had their own pace in life. And he always talked about family. You know, every time that we got together, it was all about family for him. I remember his mother was diagnosed with dementia, and she was living with us. And as I was growing up, I remember my dad lifting his mother, taking her to the bathroom and washing her hair because she couldn't do it herself. And that taught me a lot about what family is all about. But the most important thing if you translate this into business, he had his own business. He was very successful. And he didn't spend a lot of time with us. He was always out and about. And every time I asked him why you're not spending time with your family, why other things have priorities, he said, because of the family. I said, but it's only you, my brother, and my mother. Who else are you referring to? He said, I've got 500 employees that they are part of our wider family. And the decisions I make, he kept on reminding us, every single day, my decisions impact the lives of this family. So that word, that family, but not just our family, but the broader family that my father used to have as employees, actually meant a lot to us. And as we grew up, both me and my brother, we started using that broader idea of the family more and more. You know, a lot of people use the word family in many different ways. A family of brands, or my family, or a family of owners. I think for me, it started when my dad taught me that a family is not just your nuclear family, and family could be a wider group of people who depend on the decisions that my father used to make as a leader of that family. So that's why I use the word family a lot. I use the word Wyndham family quite a lot. And every morning there are two, you wake up and there are two concerns that you have. What am I going to do today to positively impact the lives of the people that work alongside me? And what am I going to do in order to make sure that the owners of the properties that they work with us deserve the best? You don't always get it right because it's a tough call. I think the definition of failure in life is if you try to please everybody. Even God hasn't managed to do that, as you can see every day. So you cannot please everybody, but it's worth trying.
So how do you percolate this culture down?
Look, it's an amazing feeling. Every time we have a town hall at Wyndham and we get on a Zoom call, it is fascinating to see people from so many languages, from so many different countries, from so many different cultures, religions. And you're like, oh my God, these are the people I work with. How lucky am I? It's not easy to populate it because I think COVID made it more difficult because we don't see each other that often. We have a lot of remote working now. People don't get together as much as they used to. You have to try very hard. You have to remind everybody that working for a company is not just a salary. It's values, it's beliefs, it's objectives, it's working together as a team. Am I doing a good job? Sometimes yes, sometimes not. There's one thing that always drew my career. You always hire people who are better than you. For me, the secret of success, you make sure that you hire people who are better than you. And I have some incredible people in my team, and they carry that culture, right? They put that culture even down to the most junior employee. And that's what it is. You cannot do it yourself, but you hire the right people. There's three things that everybody who works with me knows. Three things. You never drop people under the bus. You don't have an agenda other than the company's agenda, and you don't play politics. You do any of these three things, you don't work with me. Everybody knows that from first day. Don't drop people under the bus. No politics, no agendas. You do these three things, happy days. You start playing politics, you start throwing your colleagues under the bus, you don't have a room to play in my team.
So one value which would describe the culture at Wyndham?
I think again the family word is very important. Curiosity. I think curiosity is one of the biggest that I admire in every individual. Curiosity brought humanity where it is today. When the first human beings stood up, they were curious why they're standing up. That's how they discover fire. So curiosity for me is what I keep on reminding my people and my team, that is the most important element in how we build cultures and how we build a business. You have to be curious about everything. You have to be curious about the other person's lifestyle and does he have a good day or a bad day, on how things are at home. You have to be curious about what do the customers want and how we can get there. What else can we do in order to improve our business, and where do we take the business next in the next level? Yes, you've got all the other values of a family, but I do believe curiosity for me is what brings any relationship and any business forwards. Sometimes my wife, I've been married for 30 years, and she always asks me, aren't you curious what is happening in my life while you're not there? Because I'm never there. And I said, yes, I am curious. And said, why don't you ask then? I think curiosity is and you gotta ask. You don't ask, you don't get. So you gotta ask all the time. You have to be curious about life, and you have to be curious about the lives of the people around you, and that helps the culture develop and grow.
So what inspired you to get into hospitality?
So my father used to run, I go back to my father. My father used to run a delicatessen, a supermarket business.
Oh, no.
He was back in Athens. He started as an olive oil trader, and then he opened up his own supermarkets and his own delicatessens, and then he had a series of supermarkets. And I remember the smile behind the counter every time he was serving a customer. He didn't have to do it because he had other people to do it. His most glorious moment of a day was when he was behind the counter and he was serving the customer. And as I was growing up and I was watching him, and the worst thing that you can do in life, I think in my case, was to work for your father, right? I mean, I worked for my father during the summers. It was tough, mate. It was very tough because he was so demanding individual, and he wanted everything to be perfect. And he wanted both his sons to succeed him in the business, and none of us did. He sold it at the end. And I could see his smile every time he was serving a customer. And then I would go home and I would ask my mother, I said, hold on, that's a guy that never smiles. He grew up in a very challenging environment. He didn't finish first grade because the Nazis occupied Greece, so there was no school. He learned how to read and write when he was 18. He wore his first pair of shoes when he was 17. He lived through poverty. He never smiled when he was around us. How the hell he smiles every time he's behind a counter? And my mother used to say, because that's what he is. His whole philosophy is about service. So I realized that service, even if you do it as a job, is enormously joyful. And I said to myself, that's what I want to be. I want to find a job that can actually work with people and service people, because even if you're the toughest man in the world, that's how I picture my father. My father for me was the bravest, the strongest, but the toughest man in the world. Even that guy can be happy. And I said, if that industry makes that guy happy, I want to be in it. Because if I grew to be a horrible individual, at least I'm going to get joy of being in the service industry. So I didn't stay with his business, but when I was 21, I worked in a hotel just to gain some money for the summer, and I fell in love with the hotel industry, and I said, that's my calling. That's what I want to be. So that's how it all started.
That's very, very good to hear. But sir, I want to understand that your father was an entrepreneur. And given the fact that you're running such a successful business in Greece, why did you not choose to go down that route, although you are heading the second largest hotel chain in the world by number of rooms? Why would you?
Because I realized that I would never, and again, every time you go to ask for professional help in a psychiatrist or psychologist, he will tell you, talk to me about your childhood. If I go back to my childhood, I always thought that if I stay in my father's business, I will never be equal to him. He was such a demanding individual, and he was so proud, and he was secretly proud about his kids, but it was so obvious that we would never reach the perfection that he wanted from both of us. So I decided that instead of becoming a traumatic relationship to work with my father and never live up to his expectations, I decided that I'm going to stay in the same business, in the service industry, but I'm going to choose a different path. Could I have stayed? Of course. Would it made him proud that I would have stayed, either me or my brother? I think he would be very proud. But we decided not to, because it was so difficult to live up to his expectations that we decided we're going to follow our own path. And just before he died, I think he conveyed how proud he was of the things we achieved, even if we did it outside of his business.
Amazing.
Which wasn't very easy at that time.
Amazing. Would you call yourself the most fashionable man in the industry?
I don't know. That's for other people to say. I'll tell you what, I have my own fashion. I have my own fashion. I follow my own fashion. I wear a tie that has gone out of fashion about 20 years ago, but I wouldn't care less.
Look at the beads, the watch, the glasses.
Yeah. I just,
you're rocking all of them.
You know, a lot of things talk about how you present yourself, right? Fashion is a very overrated statement. You run your own brand. I'll tell you a story, which is true. I haven't told many people. So I lost my hair at the age of 26. Suddenly, I was a student at the University of Surrey in the UK. I woke up one day and half of my hair was on the pillow. So I said to my roommate, I said, "What are my hair doing on the pillow? They should be on my head." And he said, oh, mate, I think you're losing your hair. Anyway, it was 1985, 86. Horrible to be a bald guy at that time. In the UK, I lost almost all my hair in 2 days. It was probably a stress or something. So my roommate said, "Mate, you got to leave the house. You cannot stay here for the rest of your life because you're 26, you have no hair, your life is collapsing." Today, bald people are trendy. Back in the 80s, we were not trendy. So he said, "Why don't you ask for some help?" And I said, "Okay, I'll go to the doctor at the university to ask for some help." So I went to the doctor, told him all the story, 45 minutes. He sat exactly the same way that you are sitting now. "Yeah, okay, yeah. Tell me more. So I told him the story. And he said, "I've got the answer." I said, "Oh, this is amazing. He's going to give me a pill. My hair is going to come back." He said, "No, go back to your room. Tell your roommate to shave your head completely and go back to London and buy a pair of red glasses." At that time, I was wearing very boring black. I think I was born with glasses. So anyway, I was wearing these dark, boring black glasses. And I said to him, "Are you sure, doctor? Are you sure you're a doctor? Can I see your diploma? Don't you have a pill or something?" He said, "Mate, look, your hair is gone. For whatever reason, stress, whatever, is gone. Just change some things in your mindset and you won't look back again." So I did exactly that. I shaved my head, went back to London, bought a pair of bright red glasses, and it was the best decision I've ever made in my life. Everybody said, "Oh, I love your frames." Nobody says, "Oh, you're bald." And glasses became, and what I wear became part of who I am, because it helped me go through a very traumatic period back when I was 26 years old, that I thought my life was ending because I was bald. So it was by luck or by chance. And I still remember that guy. I don't know if he was really a doctor. I never saw the diploma. And I'm sure there is a pill still that could have saved me. But that changed my life completely.
Amazing. So, talking of this, I'm intrigued to know that has there been a sort of probably the toughest time at work which you've gone through, and how you sort of overcame that time? If you can talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's been lots. I mean, I will never forget when we closed all our hotels in EMEA at COVID. I will never forget the day that we had to furlough or make people redundant because we all believed that that's the end. I will never forget that back in the financial crisis, Lehman Brothers, and we thought that the economies of the world are going to collapse. I will never forget, I'm sitting at the office and I see the first plane hitting the World Tower in September 11. And these are decisive moments in your life, because it has to do with what happened to those people and what happened to the industry. But then you realize as a leader, damn it, how can I live up to this? How can I make sure that I take the right decisions and help my team survive through this? Because you see, leadership is not about yourself, it's the people who you're surrounded with. So when I was in Hammersmith, and it was the beginning of March 2020, and I said to the guys in the office, guys, we have to close the office. We'll see you in 2 weeks. And we didn't see each other in 2 years. And within those 2 years, you had to make some really tough decisions about people's lives. How do you live up to this? And how do you train yourself? There's no training. So there's been a lot of tough moments in my life. There were tough moments personally when my mother died. There were tough moments when my dad died. There were tough moments when my sister-in-law, 5 years, died at the age of 55. There are a lot of tough moments, but there's one thing that kept you going. Life needs to go on. You have to be resilient. You need to think of the bigger picture, and you just have to move on. And that's how we survived COVID. That's why now I'm sitting at that ballroom this morning, and I was seeing everybody talking about how the industry is growing or whatever. And I remember 3-4 years ago that we all thought that's the end. Never forget the lessons you learned. Never. Because the moment you forget the lessons you learn, you become a very selfish, egoistic person. 4 years ago, I stood in a room trying to send oxygen canisters in India because our hotels and the people that they were carrying on the local communities were running out of oxygen. You remember those days, right? If you forget that, then you become a selfish, egoistic, and somebody who hasn't learned anything. I think every single tough moment in my personal life and my business life, it was another kind of lesson to help me for the rest of my life.
I've gone through it during COVID. I've experienced as much failure as success. Nothing prepares you for that. When you sort of let go of people who you know are not going to be able to find a job at that point of time. So I'd like to delve deeper into it. What kind of emotions did you go through?
Every single emotion a human being can experience. Pain, sorrow, tears, anger, desperation, a lot of anger. I remember I was angry with everything. I was angry with my family. I was angry with me. I was angry with God. I was angry with why is this happening? I was angry with the media, that they were telling the wrong or fake news or horrible stories. You get a lot of anger, but then comes hope. Then came hope, and hope is not a strategy, obviously, but it's a great feeling, because when we start seeing some hope, and I saw the best in humanity. If you realize that during COVID there were no wars, we stopped fighting with each other. The moment COVID ended, we started fighting with each other again. I think that human beings need to learn from this. We were fighting one common enemy, and suddenly there was peace, and then we became the arrogant, selfish people that we normally are, and we start fighting again. There's a lot of lessons that I learned the last 5 years. But does anything prepare you for this? No. Nothing.
In terms of your spiritual journey, does reading, other than your work, like how do you keep sane during these moments? Are you meditating? Are you, what is...
Look, I get a lot. I get a lot of energy by the people who are around me.
So,
a lot of energy. I go to quite often. I go to Mount Athos Mount Athos is, for the Greek Orthodox Church, is a group of monasteries in Greece. You go there, you meditate, you stay with the monks, you become part of the monk community for a couple of days. You know, I always believe that and I know that there is so much spiritualism in India, I find my answers here on the ground and not necessarily in an isolated place or in a vacuum. I got more answers about who I am and what I want to be and what is happening around me by talking to people rather than being in a room all on my own meditating. Other people find more solace and more peace into that. I find more answers of what I want to know by being around people. I think people they have so much to give you. Every single person's story, it's a great story. My assistant keeps on telling me, do you actually need to meet this person? Why? I said, Amanda, every single person adds something. It's like a little Lego or a little piece of the puzzle in my life. I learned so much when I travel and when I listen to people. It's just the puzzle of life. You just pick up all these thousands of pieces and then you create your puzzle.
So being with people gives you happiness?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's the ultimate definition of happiness.
That's amazing. So, sir, another question which I had is now a little bit about the industry at large. So where does Wyndham stand in the global landscape? If you can give us a few numbers of.
Look, we are the world's biggest franchise business. We have 9,200 hotels, 95 countries. We have 25 brands. We are predominantly economy, budget, and mid-scale. We're the leaders in that space. We're moving into upscale. We're moving into luxury gradually as we get more Wyndham Grands and more Dolces in various countries. I'm very proud that we have a lot of inroads in the mid-scale and upper mid-scale and upper upscale in my region, in the Middle East, in India. So Wyndham is a great company. A lot of course, I would say that, but a lot of people do not know that we're a young company. We started with Wyndham worldwide back in 2007. So we're a company that likes to buy brands. So out of the 25 brands that we have, 20 we've actually bought, 4 we created or 5 and 1 we've actually licensed recently. So we are an acquisitions company and we grow by buying brands that make sense for us to grow in various parts of the world. That's.
How many rooms are in Wyndham?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I should have known the answer, but if I'm not mistaken, I think we're about 900,000 rooms or 850,000 rooms across the world.
And the EMEA would be?
EMEA, we've got almost 700 hotels. We're going to close the year with almost 700 hotels, and that represents about 70 or 75,000 rooms.
And so how many countries is EMEA?
So we are present in 45 countries. We have hotels in one hotel in one country, and we've got a country like Turkey, for example, with 130 hotels. So it's a very broad mix of presence. Look, the most important thing, and I know that in the industry we talk about numbers all the time and growth. Growth has to make sense. You have to have the right brands for the right people, for the right owners. And ultimately, like in everything in life, is the consumer who decides the future of a brand. I can build whatever brand I want, but if the consumer doesn't buy that brand, what's the point? The biggest example and the biggest lesson I got, it was from Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is one of the most recognizable brands in the world. Do you know that they've actually pulled 4 of the brands that they launched, they pulled it out of the supermarkets because nobody was buying it. And you're sitting there, you're like, Cherry Coke. Why people didn't buy Cherry Coke? But it's Coke. No, because consumers hated it. And you're like, hold on, but Coca-Cola is the best brand in the world. Why did they have to pull it? Because people didn't buy it. So if the biggest brand and one of the most recognizable brands in the world, they actually pulled 3 or 4, I don't know the exact, but out of the supermarket, it means that it is ultimately the consumer who decides the future of a brand. And that's what I need to make sure every single day, that we bring brands to a country that ultimately is the consumer who decides what the future of that brand is.
I'll be curious to know from where to where your Wyndham journey has been in terms of the number of rooms, hotels.
Oh, that would sound I should have known the numbers. I tell you where the real journey started, though. It started when, and I'm going to tell you this, and I hope people take it the right way. So I'm the new appointed president of EMEA. I go in a boardroom like this, and there's all my direct reports at that time. They speak a language that I don't understand. It's all about three-letter words: RevPAR, energy, RVI, ROI. I pretend that I know what they're talking about. And then I went back to my room, my office. I sat like this and I'm like, what have you done? Why didn't you stay where you were? What language do these people speak? And then bless her, I had a Swedish lawyer, perfectly Swedish, comes in, looks at me and says, you don't understand a thing, did you? I'm like, you're my lawyer. I will tell you the truth. No. And she handed me a paper. She said, these are the hospitality abbreviations. Read the first 2 pages and you're going to be fine. Yes. Yes. Finally understood what RevPAR really means. That was the most decisive. Forget about the numbers, forget about the hotels. The most decisive moment in my career as a hotelier was like, I now understand what RevPAR means. Thank God. Thank God. Because, hoteliers, we love to use these 3-letter words, right? The abbreviations, and then we just love it. So the moment I got it, it was one of the best moments in my life. Oh.
Amazing. So, but as I understand that in the past 7-8 years, the numbers of Wyndham have doubled.
Yes. Look, we since we became public in May 2000 or June 2018, Wyndham has been one of the biggest success stories in Wall Street. We're a company that has values, has great brands. We have great leadership. Our CEO has been there for many years. He's the leader who took us through some really tough times. We had a lot of headwinds, a lot of tailwinds. A good captain, we say in Greece, and we are we live in the sea, the Greeks. In Greeks, we say the good captain, you only see him or her in the storm. Everybody's a great captain in calm waters. You only see a great captain at the storm. I will never forget, every time I see the Titanic movie, I cry, but I will never forget the lesson that the Titanic was going down and the band was playing on the upper deck because the captain didn't realize that the ship was sinking. So a good captain, you only see him or her during the storm. So, and we were blessed to have great captains in our business.
So I'll ask you 2 questions. So one is that who do you think you in the hospitality industry specifically you've learned most from? And the second question would be that are you looking at acquisitions in India as well?
I had some really challenging bosses. I learned more from bad bosses than good bosses because I've learned what to avoid and what not to be.
Can you tell us
I won't tell you a name.
A story?
Yeah, I can tell you a story. I had a boss he used to find pleasure in making people cry in the boardroom because, probably trying to be tough was his thing. I had a boss who would used to travel business class, and the rest of us were in economy. We went travel together, and I was really wondering, what's the purpose? What was the purpose of that behavior? There are a lot of incidents where you learn from your bosses, right? I learned a lot from the people that they were not tough, because I love tough bosses, but they were bad leaders. But I was blessed enough many years and today to learn a lot, equally a lot and more, by some really amazing leaders. And leadership is not just about the wonderful things that you say or the Harvard Business School great plans. Leaders are about how you see them talk to you and engage with you in every single day. That is the definition of leadership. How do you overcome every single day? As I said, a captain, why the captain is always on the bridge? That's a true leader for me. The captain was always there on the bridge, knows exactly what is happening in the ship, and knows every single time how to give you the right command. When the captain says battle stations, it's battle stations. When the captain says it's not a drill, it's not a drill. And everybody knows where to go and what to do. So
Wyndham, for the viewers, can you tell them about the business model? Like, can you simplify it? Like,
very simple, franchise. We provide franchise services. We have 25 brands. Our brands represent certain segments of the industry, from economy, budget, mid-scale, upper scale. We provide franchise services. We provide a distribution channel, technology. We have one of the world's most simple and biggest Wyndham Rewards loyalty scheme with 115 or 110 million members.
What would it rank in the?
I think we're about the fourth, with Marriott being the first one with 200. But for us, it's a community. It's a community of people gets together and makes sure that they're all used and inspired through the Wyndham family of brands. And the Wyndham family, I use again the family word, is the family of brands, the family of people, and the guests. You need to make sure that the guests feel part of the Wyndham family. And you need to remind them all the time about that family feeling.
However, as a hotel owner, like, what are the advantages of me getting into a franchise versus a management? What is the fee difference? And what are the services which I will get? And let's talk about a typical Ramada hotel, because I think Ramada is the best known Wyndham brand in India. Yes.
Yeah. Look, there's so many. One of the things that I've always liked and enjoyed in the hospitality industry is that there's so many different models. There's so many different brands. I don't know if you realize, but if you take the 5 or 6 biggest hotel brands in the world, between us, we have about 160 brands. 160 brands.
Crazy.
Which is crazy, right? I mean, and that's what makes this industry so fascinating. There are different models. There are different franchise, managers, owners. There's luxury. What is the difference? The difference is that every single brand and every single business that is out there is part of an ecosystem, right? We're all part of an ecosystem. There are people that they want to run their own hotels, so they choose a franchise. There are people who are owners who say, I don't want to do this, I'll find somebody else to do it for me. And that's why the white label operators came along. There are certain brands that they say, we don't franchise, we only manage. You want our brand, you have to do a managed deal with us. There are other brands that they say, we franchise half and we manage the other half. So the beauty of this world is the fact that it has everything for everybody. It has things from the guy who is a solo traveler to the guy who travels with the whole family. If you go, I don't know much about cars. One of the things that I don't do very well is drive. And I would never dare drive in India, by the way. If I don't drive back at home, can you imagine driving in this place? I was always fascinated when I go to car showrooms. You go into a car showroom, and my goodness, there's so much choice. So we went to buy a car for my daughter, and there was all these cars. And I said to my daughter, you better know what you want, because I wouldn't have a clue. Because there were so many different cars, so many different offers, so many different variety of the same model. That's the beauty of the hospitality industry. Sometimes you look at the brands and you're like, oh my God, where should I stay? What does every brand represents? So to ask specifically your question about why so many different models, because there are so many different owners. The private equity owner looks at different things. The guy who only buys a real estate play looks at different things. The guy who just bought or built a hotel for his son and his daughter is looking for other things, right? So we as brands, we have to adapt to what the owners are looking for. It would be very selfish to say that I've got an answer for everything. No, that's why every day there is another brand coming into play. Yes, there are brands that they have no future, or consumers completely ignore those brands. It happens, right? I told you, Coca-Cola pulled 2 or 3 brands, I don't know, I think it's 2 or 3 out of the supermarkets. Why? Because consumers didn't buy them. The ultimate decision lies with the consumer. You need to understand what your client wants. And I'll tell you an interesting story. I love salespeople. I learned so much about sales. And so we walked into the sales room. I won't tell you the brand. Mid-scale economy brand. My daughter wanted a small car. The salesman looks at me. He says, that's the guy who's going to make the decision. Mistake number 1. I know nothing about cars. I drive about 2,000 kilometers a year. That's it. So mistake number 1. He looked at me. He says, that's the old guy in the room. That's the guy who's going to make a decision, not the young kid, not the kid. So talking to me. Okay. Start telling me so many things about the car. How fast it is. What is the horsepower? What is the, I don't know, the brakes or whatever. I didn't understand a thing. Nothing. I don't know anything about horsepower. I don't even care about horsepower. Then he opened up the boot and he said, let me explain you how the engine works. And I'm like, my daughter this is the point where my daughter, because she knows me, starts laughing. She said, we're not going to buy a car here. So anyway, so the guy finishes, 45, sales pitch, Bob, look at me, never addressed my daughter. And he said, do you have any question? I said, yes, I do actually have a question. Is there anywhere that I can plug my charger for my iPhone? So the guy looked at me and he said, this guy must be stupid. I've given him 20 different reasons why he should buy a car. And he only cares about, is there anywhere that I can plug my iPhone? So then I said, look, mate, I'll tell you what. You made a couple of fundamental mistakes. First of all, you didn't realize that I'm not the buyer. I'm the guy who pays, but she decides. Because I told you from the moment I walked in, we came here to buy a car for my daughter. Second, you didn't even ask me, do I know anything about cars? Or what is important for me when buying a car, even if I was the buyer? Anyway, we bought the car from this guy because he was a great salesman at the end. But why I'm telling you this story? Because every single brand in hospitality needs to ask the client what they want and what they're looking for. We build brands, we buy brands, we create brands. Always bear in mind who the end customer is. Who is the end user? When iPhone was created, they were created based on the end user. What does the end user want? Right? Simplicity, flexibility, ease of use. Even for an idiot, even an idiot can press a screen.
Absolutely. So this is a very interesting story. So the way you helped you and your daughter decided about the car, can you help an Indian owner decide why you should choose franchise over management? Why should he? Because since Wyndham is predominant.
I mean, it's very simple. If you have a great manager, if you have a great GM, it makes sense that you run the property yourself. If the property is too overwhelming, there are some amazing properties in this country that the owners feel completely overwhelmed to run it themselves. Too big, too important, too many facilities, too many, I don't know, offers, too many restaurants, too many bars. It all depends what the owner is looking for. You will see in India, though, something that is going to grow in the next few years, the rise of the white label operators. The people who set up a company to serve the needs of the owners. They work with multiple brands, so it's multiple owners, multiple brands working for multiple owners. I believe that this is a trend you will see in India coming more and more. It is growing everywhere else in the world. Everywhere else in the world. And I do believe that the future of India will be a hybrid model where you're going to have pure franchise, pure managed, but a very big portion in the middle would be the white label operators who are going to contract with the brand and they're going to provide management services to the owners. The challenge that we have in many countries in the world where hospitality is a family business is that the next generation doesn't want to be in the business. Hospitality is a tough gig. It's a tough gig, very tough gig. Hospitality needs, think of this. You are a hotel owner and you operate your hotel. No matter what happens at home, no matter what happens in your private life, you have to go in with a big smile and welcome your guests. It's not an easy gig. That's why we see so many young people live in hospitality, because it is not an easy gig. It is a difficult job to come day in and day out and service those clients with a smile. So no matter if you're a white label operator, if you're a franchisee, a franchisor, if you're a managed company or a brand, at the end of the day, that guest for that night deserves your best smile. I have a friend in Greece who is a famous actor, and he always complains that, oh, every 3 months a year, 4 months a year, I need to stand up every day in front of these people and make them smile, make them laugh, play my role. I said, mate, can I tell you what we do in hospitality every single day for 365 days? He said, no, what are you doing? I said, we have new people coming in. We smile. We welcome them. We have more people coming in. We smile. We welcome them. He said, you do that every day? I said, yes. He said, and how do you do it? I said, that's exactly my point. If you complain that you have to act every single day for 3 months in front of, 300 people in a theater, our people, every single day for 365 days, every time somebody walks in, they put a smile on their face and they perform in the best of their abilities. That's what hospitality is. And I said, if you have a bad gig or a tough gig, come and spend a week behind a reception. Then you'll see what a tough gig is all about.
I've never thought about it the way you just put it.
Think about it.
That's...
It doesn't matter. I had a guy, a mentor, and he said, you know what working for hospitality looks like? You drive from home, you have a hunger, you take off your personal problems, you hang them on the hanger, you go in, you provide the best possible service with a smile, you finish your shift, you go back, you put your personal problems, and you go home. That's what hospitality. You live back in the hangar, your personal life, the fight you had with your daughter or your wife in the morning, the bad news you just heard, whatever experience you had on the street, on the road, you had a fight with somebody on the road, you hang all of that at the hangar, you go in, you provide the best service in the best of your abilities, and then you go back and you put it back again and you get on with your life.
So that's beautifully put. So are you looking at acquiring brands in India as well?
We as a company, we love to buy brands. We never say no to a good deal. Certain Indian brands that I believe that have enormous value. I keep on saying, and I've said it publicly as well, that there are 150, my real target is the 150 million Indians, consumers who are going to travel the world in the next 5 years. These consumers, if you think about it, why I think Indigo and Air India made the biggest order in the aviation history, 820 planes. Why? Because they know that in the next 5 to 10 years, there's going to be an incredible demand from Indians traveling abroad. Ideally, and it would be interesting to see how an Indian brand can actually transform what Indian hospitality is all about outside of India. That would be for me a very interesting experiment. So to answer your question, and I need to be careful before I do any future looking statements, Wyndham never says no to a good deal, a deal that makes sense for our portfolio of brands, and a deal that makes sense in a country that we see enormous future and enormous growth.
That's amazing to know, sir. So another question which I had was that, you had Nikhil, who was heading the company. When do we see a new managing director?
Very soon. Nikhil is my brother from another mother, obviously, because he's far more good looking than I am. And he's got better hair. And he's got better hair. He's got better. Nikhil was an amazing person to work with. We were mates, and I see him as it was one of my best friends in the industry. I understand why he did what he did, and he moved on, because that's what life is all about. You move on. When my daughter decided to leave home, that's how I felt with Nikhil. Told me he's moving on. He's not young enough to be my son, though, so I keep on. I need to remind that of him. Because you asked me a very interesting question, I'm not planning to replace Nikhil. I'm not looking for a Nikhil replacement because Nikhil has a special place in my life. We worked together for 5 years. They were amazing. We had amazing fun. He was one of the few people that understood my jokes, bless him, or he pretended that he understood them, or pretend that he was laughing. So I'm not looking to replace Nikhil because Nikhil has a special place in India for Wyndham and in my life. I'm looking to move to the next level. And next level doesn't actually mean a better level. No, it means a next level. A next level could be this way or this way. So very soon we need local leadership. I think Anime, Saksi, Surad have done an amazing job to keep the fort while we're looking for that leader. And that to me was a great proof of what Nikhil built here as well. He built a team that could stand on their own feet. When Nikhil left, and he's gone now for 6 months, 7 months, we're actually growing equally fast and equally strong. And kudos to Nikhil because he built a team that could actually stand alone without Nikhil being there. I think Jeff Bezos said it on the brands. He said, the real value of the brands is what people say in the room when you're not present. So when Nikhil wasn't present, the Wyndham brand continued to grow. And I think if I was Nikhil, that would be my best legacy and my best statement. So if I go to my next job and I ask for a job and people ask me, what is your best accomplishment? That the business survived and moved on even when I was not there.
That's amazing. One thing you hate about Nikhil.
What do I hate about Nikhil? No, about Nikhil?
Yeah.
What I hate about Nikhil?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Is he going to watch this? So what I hate about Nikhil, I think he pulls the Indian Nehru jacket a bit better than I do, just to start. What I hate about Nikhil is that he actually laughed on my jokes better than I do on my own jokes. And I hated it because I knew he was pretending, and I hope he's listening. I knew you were pretending, Nikhil, when I was making these horrible jokes, 12 o'clock at night after a couple of whiskeys. I know you were pretending. And what else do I hate about Nikhil? I hate that he left us. Although I understand why he did it, I hated it. That I'll tell you an interesting story, and I'm going to say this. I don't care if it goes public. So one of my best things when I travel is I go to airports at least an hour earlier to eat a Burger King. I love Burger King. So I go to airports to eat a Burger King. It's my moment that I really enjoy. There's nobody around me. I'm on my own. I'm ready to go on a flight, and I'm sitting at a Burger King at an airport enjoying my double Whopper and my Burger King. So here I am, and this is a true story, believe me. I'm in Cologne Airport in Germany. I finish my meeting. I go to Cologne Airport. I'm sitting at the Burger King. I'm ready to bite my Burger King. And is Nikhil on the mobile? And I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm going to answer. I said, what do you want? And he said, oh, I don't know if you heard, but and because the market is talking, I decided to leave you and leave Wyndham. And I said, I'm actually enjoying a Burger King. Can you call me later? Because I'm not going to be able to enjoy having that conversation when you just told me what you told me. So I bite on my Burger King. I thought I was biting on his neck. I'm going to kill you, Nikhil. It was the Burger King that I enjoyed the most in my life. Really, that Cologne Burger King was the best Burger King I've had, because I was thinking, I'm going to kill you. And I was chewing on that Burger King. So that is a true story, by the way. And I told him afterwards, I said, did you have to call me when I was enjoying my Burger King? He said, how would I know? And I said, mate, anyway.
You love Greek philosophy, sir?
Yeah, I love history. I think history repeats itself either as a drama or as a comedy, which is funny because the Greeks invented both drama and comedy. I think the philosophy and the Greek classics are embedded in our DNA, in the Greek DNA. You have an amazing culture yourselves. You have a civilization that goes back in times.
We have an older civilization, or you?
You know what? Every time I had that debate, so in university, back in one of the best conversations was between the Indians and so I was living in a students' union, and I was living together in the same hall with different people, right? So I was fighting with my Indian friends. Is it us or is it them? Then the Chinese would come in and say, forget about it, it's us. And the Arabs would come in and say, read your history, it's the Arabs. It's not either the Chinese or the Greeks or the Indians, it's the Arabs. I think the amalgamation of cultures is just phenomenal. I think the Greek classics are in our DNA. If you ask me, I would actually suggest something to you and your readers. If you read Plato, Aristotle, or Socrates, to your big surprise, you will find out that they spoke about the things that are going on in the world today 3,000 years ago, or 2,000 things ago.
Can you give us an example?
Yeah, I mean, if you read Plato's, which is Politia to Platona, which is the state of Plato, and he talks about leadership, and he talks about leaders, and he talks about politics. Things that are happening today is what Plato and Aristotle spoke about years and years and thousands of years ago. If you see Alexander the Great, if you read how Alexander the Great, he actually reached up to India, and he left a great legacy here in India. If you read his story and what he achieved, he was a king until he died at the age of 33. The learnings that we've learned from Alexander, he conquered almost half of the known world, and he didn't conquer it. He left. He respected the local culture. He respected the local values. He married a Persian. I think he married a Persian princess. He made his army marry local people in order to make sure that he respected what the local nations represented. So history, you gotta read history, because history teaches you so many things about what is happening in life today. It teaches you about failures, successes. It teaches you about vanity. It teaches you about selfishness. It teaches you about mistakes in leadership. Do you know that Sir Winston Churchill was a failure as a politician, but he was considered one of the biggest heroes, and who carried Britain during the Second World War. But 10 years before that, he was considered a failure of a politician. So it is amazing what you learn by reading history. That's why philosophy, the Greek classics, they're embedded in our DNA. The problem, I think, today is the younger generation, and I know that I sound like an old man talking about the younger generation. I think they tend to forget that the answers, there are not many unique, generic questions anymore. The answers are there. You just need to find them. And I think the books, and especially the classics, are a great place to start.
Any book you would recommend? One. There was one.
Look, I love biographies.
Yeah.
Some of the books that I read, and they were amazing. They were biographies, because biographies tell you a lot about people and leaders. I read the biography of Barack Obama, Bruce Springsteen.
One, if the readers had to choose one.
One book that I read that really, really influenced me a lot was Jack Kerouac's On the Road. I wanted to be this guy. You know, when you read that book when you're 16 years old, and he talks about what he's done in his life, and how all the great experiences he had on the road and the great encounter of people. I wanted to be Jack Kerouac so much. I wasn't successful because I grew up in a very conservative environment. My dad wouldn't even consider allowing me to do that. But I jumped on a train at the age of 19, and I traveled the known Central Europe at that time by train. And this is back in the 1980s. And I thought of myself, I'm Jack Kerouac on the road. That's one of the books as I was growing up that really influenced my life. And yes, there is Alexander and Plato and Socrates. But you know, when you go to a movie and you suddenly become the hero of that movie, or you read the book and you're like, I am this guy. I want to be this guy. I wanted to be Jack Kerouac like anything else in my life.
So Jack was a traveler in that?
Yes. He was in the beatniks back in the 60s. He traveled Route 66. He traveled the United States with his mates, and he encountered all these amazing circumstances, interesting people, and just living on the road, a very reckless and a very joyful life on the road. And I wanted to be that guy.
So you are that guy. This is the third time you've come to India in what, 3 months? 4 months?
Yes, yeah, I know, but I wear a suit, and then I wear a suit, and I am living in nice hotel rooms, and I get breakfast served to me, and people take my clothes from the closet and iron them without me asking them. Yeah. So no, don't leave my clothes there. I don't want you ironing my clothes. I want to be like Jack Kerouac. I want to iron my. It doesn't. No, it's. I tried, but it didn't actually happen the way that I had envisioned it.
So what do you love about India, and something which you dislike?
I am half Indian by now, I think. What I love about India is your resilience. I see people living in the streets all their lives and be more happier than me, that I live in relatively comfortable environment. I see people who are in the streets. They're born in the street, they grow up in the street, and they die in the street with this little tent, and they smile more authentically than so many people that I've met in my life that they have a ton of money. So I love that about India. I love the traffic, believe it or not. I like the fact that people horn every time without no meaning. I never understood that, but I love it. I love your food. In Greece, our food is very simple. Oregano, olive oil, a bit of garlic. Here, you eat your food and it's like a rainbow.
It's like the double whopper.
Yes, it's like the double whopper. It's like a rainbow of spices and smells. But above all, as I said, I love your resilience as a nation. You're the most popular nation in the world. And one thing that I really love is your democracy. How do you manage to build the democracy in 1.4 billion people? How do you manage to? And I love that. I love that. I love that you are such a democracy and you live your values. Yes, you don't always get it right, but who does? What I don't like about India,
Apart from Arivir.
yes. Apart, I think what I don't like about India is the fact that sometimes you should become more welcoming to the international guests. I think the international guests are missing a huge opportunity to know your country. I think for a country of 1.4 billion people and all this magic in so many beautiful destinations, I think you're missing introducing that country to the world. You only have about 10 million international arrivals a year. Just to give you an idea, Greece, with 9 million people, we have about 32 million visitors a year.
So how can we get there? What do you think the government can do?
I think it's not just about the government. I think you need to make coming to India more friendly. I think the government is trying. I think the e-visa is working, but you need to make it more friendly. I think the destination needs more PR. It wasn't a good move that they cut the budget to advertise India abroad. I think it wasn't a very good move. I think India needs, because everybody needs money to advertise a destination. You know, sometimes people like to talk the good, the bad and the ugly, because bad news sell. I think there's so many wonderful news about India that you can promote and you can sell. And overall, I think you need to go back to Incredible India. I use the term Incredible India all the time because I think it's an incredible country. I think you need to go back to that and show to the world what an incredible place this is. My wife always wanted to come to India. I was always busy. About a year ago, I said, look, we're so close to divorce because I'm not allowing you to come with me. Come, we'll take 4 days and we're going to spend 4 days in India. I've never seen a happier face in my life. And I really hope that she's going to watch
Which was
this.
her favorite part?
Because she was here. For her, India was magic. All the documentaries, all the colors, so she's here, she landed. And I'm a very conservative person, right? I don't, so at breakfast, I will eat my croissant and my orange juice, and that's it. So here we are at the hotel, and this lovely waiter goes to my wife and says, what would you like for your breakfast, Mom? Would you like an omelette? And my wife, being typical, she says, shit, no. Bring me everything that Indians eat for breakfast. And I'm like, really? Do you know how much that is? He said, I don't care. I want to experience everything this country stands for.
Amazing.
For 4 days, mate, we've eaten every curry that exists on the planet Earth. I think I had a bad stomach for at least 4 days because he made me eat things that I've never eaten and I didn't even know what I was eating. Her smile was the best reward. And the more the chef was delighted that this Greek lady was asking to eat all these things, the more they kept on bringing food. Oh, madam, you need to try this. I'm like, no, you don't want to try this. No, I do. And I'm like, oh my God, what a mistake. Anyway, that woman, and I hope she's gonna listen to this at some point because she's gonna confirm, that woman is the best advocate of your country everywhere we go.
Amazing.
We went to Hindu temples. We lost her sister from pancreatic cancer at the age of 55, 5 years ago. She took a piece of cloth from her sister to put it in the Ganges. I'm like, in 4 days, that woman became more Indian than Indians. I think that is a story that you need to tell the world. India is so much. I fell off a horse as I was trying to do an experience in Udaipur. Okay, that wasn't a good experience, but amazing, amazing experience. She kept on telling my kids about it. We were supposed to come to India in August. I came here for a conference, and we were supposed to bring the family. Unfortunately, her mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer 2 months ago, and we didn't manage to bring the kids as well. But it's a trip that we as a family have decided to do very, very soon. Because again, she loves, in 4 days, she fell in love. Actually, she fell more in love with India than she's ever fallen in love with me, which makes me a bit jealous, but it is what it is. So yeah, that's the answer. What I don't like about India, that you don't talk about incredible India as much as you should.
This is very well put, sir, and I could not agree more. Sir, the best deal you've done in your life, which you would say you're most proud of, and the deal which you've missed?
There are a lot of deals that I missed. And remember, you're as good as your last contract. We live in a world of speed and quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4. I'm very proud about a recent deal that we've done. We bought a brand called Vienna House in Central Europe. A beautiful brand, design, lovely people, lovely brand, lovely location. So I'm really proud about doing that deal. There are some deals that I'm really disappointed that I lost, but somebody else gained it, and that's the circle of life. Hakuna Matata. You win some, you lose some. Life would be so boring if you were always part of the. I know that people will say history is written by winners, right? Winners write history, but I think I've learned a lot by losing as well. I had a lot of defeats as a leader. I made some incredibly stupid mistakes as a leader. I think I've learned. When I step down and I go back to Greece and I find a nice village, a nice island, and I learn how to fish.
Had a house in Paros?
And a house in Paros, which is my favorite. You just gave away one of my secrets, my little, not an island. I do not own an island, but I own this little place on the island of Paros. It's interesting to watch back in life and see what your key learnings were. My key learnings were more about the failures than the wins.
Can you give us a story?
Life, and again, life is like when you lose, you're like an orphan. Nobody wants to be around you. But when you win, everybody wants to be with you. You see a lot of, you realize a lot about people when you are in your worst, when you're down. And I had the pleasure of, or the privilege of a lot of people giving me a helping hand when I was down. And I learned that this is the most important thing you do. When somebody's down, you just give them a helping hand. Somebody asked me recently, what do you want to write on your grave? If it was something that you want, and I said, the man who had 1,000,000 miles but didn't have time to spend them. So and why I say that, because one of the things that I learned is time, how valuable time is. Time is the only commodity in life that you cannot buy or replace. The only commodity. You can replace wealth, you can replace health, you can replace your hair. I can easily go and put hair on. You can buy love. Some people do. You can buy the best car in the world. You can buy a ticket to go to the moon, as some people do. But can you actually buy time? No.
I would like to add to that if I have no one to say this, but if I had to describe you in a line, or the man who gave 1,000,000 smiles.
Yeah, look, you wake
it's always
up.
Fun.
Yeah, being an asshole is easy. You can be an asshole to your wife, to your kids, to the waiter, to the driver, to the bus driver, to your team. Can you be a nice person? Can you make an effort to be a nice person? At this crossroad every day of your life, you have to choose what exactly you want to be today. And that determines the rest of your day. I believe smiling is, first of all, people think I'm an idiot because why the hell am I smiling all the time? Which helps. Second, when you smile, it makes them wonder, why the hell is he smiling? And third, and most important, I think smile is contagious. I think smile makes other people smile. Can you imagine, I go back to my office with my face white, completely miserable, negative. There are two things my team is gonna think. A, that's my last day in the job, or the business is in a really bad shape. Positivity gives birth to positivity. A smile gives birth to a smile. Positive attitude gives birth to positive attitude. Negativity spreads like bloody cancer. Everybody can be an asshole. The question is, will you make an effort today to be a nice person?
This is something I will take away from this because it's very tough for me. And sometimes I'm on the other end of the spectrum when I enter office. And sometimes because, like you said, that you have to change your coat when you enter the office or you enter the hotel. But it's very tough to do that. And it's not an easy job.
No, it's not an easy job. It's because we're all human beings.
Yes.
We're all human beings. How can you just lost a loved one. So we had a case a month ago. My eldest daughter, she's 27, and she's one of these kids that she believes that life is meaningless because we're killing the planet, we're destroying the world, and look what is happening with the wars. And we had a conversation, and she said, "What's worth living? What is life worth living if all of these things are happening in life?" And a day before that, a very good friend of mine at the age of 45 was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And I said to my daughter, I said, "Okay, I'll give you two choices. Do you want to call this guy who is just diagnosed with a brain tumor and ask him what life is worth living for? Because he's going to be able to give you an answer." That's what I think is the answer. I think that if you're 45 years old and you've just been diagnosed with a brain tumor and you've got a month to live or two, and then you've got a 27-year-old young girl who is disappointed about all the things that we do wrong, and you tell her, ask this guy what's worth living for. I think that's the answer. If that guy would give anything to live another month. So that, to me, every time I get on a fight with my kids and what's the world you live in, and yeah, I'm blessed. I'm blessed because I'm 60 and I've lived a great career, and I'm blessed because in some cases I've touched positively people's lives, and other people have touched positively mine. So, have I been a good father? Probably not. Have I been a good husband? Probably not, to be honest, because the 30 years I've been married to my lovely wife, 2/3 of that I was away. But as I keep on telling them, there's a better father and a better husband out there, but you're stuck with me.
That is true,
and that's the end of the conversation.
Exactly.
They don't say anything else.
So, sir, we'll end with this section which I call slippery slope. Just a few questions, one word or one line. Sir, your mentor.
My mentor is easy. He's my father. I know it sounds very cliche. He's the same guy that I thought he was the Atlas, holding the world in his hands. But at the same time, he was one of the toughest people to be around, very demanding, but very vulnerable. It was amazing. A guy that I've never seen smile because he had a very difficult upbringing. To smile at the birth of his first grandchild, which was my daughter. And we went home, and my wife, I was part when I was there when she was giving birth to my first daughter, and it was his first grandchild. And she said, what is the only thing you can say? I said, thank you, because I just saw my father smile. It was the first time I actually saw him smile.
So would you say that's the happiest moment of your life?
That was the happiest moment of my life. I never thought this guy can actually smile. And suddenly I saw this huge smile on his face and I'm like, shit, he can smile. So yeah, that was the happiest moment of my life.
Marriott or Hilton? Because I can't ask about Wyndham.
So I love Marriott because of the Marriott family. I love I think the Hilton brand is an amazing brand. Chris Nassetta is an amazing leader. Marriott had the pleasure of having some amazing leaders. I think Bill Marriott and his legacy lives more in the Marriott and with the Marriott family being there. And I've got very good friends in both camps, and I think both of them are amazing brands. And these two families have done so much for hospitality, and we owe them so much because they've taught so many generations of hospitality leaders. So
the person who you'd like to have dinner with?
I lived for 5 years in South Africa, and I would like to have dinner with Nelson Mandela. Because I read his Way to Freedom a couple of times. He dreamed of the Rainbow Nation. He dreamed of everybody living in peace. I would like to have dinner with him and ask him, is that dream still alive? And how was it to be Nelson Mandela? There are a lot of other important people that I would love to have dinner with. John Lennon, for example, and listen the story of Beatles but Nelson Mandela would be my first choice.
Amazing. Meeting that changed your life?
A meeting that changed my life. My wife. I've talked about a lot about my wife. My wife said 9 times. I proposed 9 times to go out, and she said 9 times no. She hated my guts. She thought that I was the worst person to be on a date. So it's 9 times. So I met her through a common friend. I asked her 9 times to go on a bloody date, 9 times. And if you're listening, it has hurt me a lot at that time. On the 10th time, she said, yes, I'll do you a favor. Get out of my life. I'll say yes. 6 months later, we got married, and we've been married for the last 30 years because I knew she was the one. So, yeah.
Colleague you admire most?
I know, again, it's going to sound cliche. The 2 people that I admire the most are colleagues. I admire Steve Holmes, our chairman. I will never forget Steve's advice. I'm sitting at the global conference, and I'm about to go on stage. I don't follow the script. So I have a problem following scripts. So I'm sweating like a pig, and I'm like, my God, it's 6,000 people. What am I going to talk to them about? I just joined the hotel company. I just don't know much about the hotel business. Steve sees me in the backstage, and he says, why are you sweating? Why are you so nervous? I said, Jeff, I said, Steve, 6,000 people out there. I just joined the hotel group. What am I going to talk to them about? He said, Dimitri, do they know what you're going to talk to them about? I said, no. Go get them, Tiger. And I'm like, holy shit. That's it. They don't know what I'm going to talk to them about. I can talk to them about anything. And that's exactly what I did. So Steve is an amazing leader. He took Wyndham to incredible heights. And there's another guy that I really admire from a leadership perspective, which is Jeff Balori. I worked for Jeff, still work for Jeff, 16 years, both at RCI and at Wyndham Hotels. Great leader. He took us through some amazing headwinds. He created some tailwinds, which are amazing. He has taught me a lot about what leadership is about and what to take and what not to take. So these 2 people, because I worked more closely with Jeff than Steve, but these 2 people, they've taught me a lot about leadership and how to navigate what Wyndham stands for and navigate the future.
Amazing. Describe yourself in one word.
Curious. I'm a curious guy. I told you curiosity is one of the things that I love about people. I'm curious about everything. Every single thing that is happening, even today at the age of 60, I want to find out why. Why is it happening? Why people behave the way they do? Why I lost that deal? Or why one of my colleagues is unhappy? What's wrong with her or him? What's going on in their private lives? So curiosity, I would say it's It's my number one thing.
So to end, I would just like to first ask about your time at RCI and the relationship it has with Wyndham, and then leave the floor open to you to.
Yeah, I worked for the world's biggest timeshare exchange company very proudly for 20 years of my life. RCI invented the timeshare exchange, and we started, and we became an amazing business. Wyndham Worldwide, or Sendon at that time, spent about $1 billion to buy that business. I had a great leader at that time, Crystal Dehan, the founder of the RCI business. Can I tell you a small story about
Of
Crystal?
course.
Just to how people impact your life, and you're going to ask me why I didn't mention her as a leader, because that I admire, because she was more than a leader to me. She was like my best in kin. She was like our mother. So Crystal and John Dehan founded RCI, two immigrants from Germany back in the United States. Crystal took over after she divorced John. She found the money, took over RCI, built an amazing business, and Sendon bought that business for $1 billion back in 2007, I think. That Christmas, and that happened, I think, in October. At Christmas, I got a letter on the mail with a private letter for Crystal. And I worked very closely with Crystal, with a private letter from Crystal and saying, Dimitri, thank you very much for everything you did to grow the business, spending time with you, Love, Crystal, good luck. And this is a small check with an appreciation for what you've done and for making this RCI the business that's worth $1 billion. Somebody paid $1 billion to buy. It was busy. It was the end of the year. It was Christmas. I opened up the envelope. I looked at the check, didn't pay much attention, went back home, said to my wife, I said, honey, you won't believe it. Crystal sent me $1,000 as a token of appreciation for what we've done for the business, and and what a great gesture. And just take it, buy something, or put it in. So 2 minutes later, my wife says to me, so typical. I'm like, what do you mean? So typical of you. You don't pay attention to detail, do you? I said, oh, come on, you know what? Just tell me what happened. It's $100,000, Dimitri. I'm like, what? It's $100,000. Crystal send you a check of $100,000. I'm like, oh shit, it's $100,000. I mean,
An amazing.
really? She didn't have to. And I found out later, almost every employee of the company, irrespective of your position, got a check that Christmas. Others 1,000, others 10, others 50, others.
What an amazing story. So, just a little bit about RCI. Like, what does RCI?
RCI was a great lesson for me. It was a great school.
What is RCI? Because
RCI is the world's biggest timeshare exchange company.
What is timeshare?
Timeshare is a segment of the hospitality industry where you buy either a deed or a right of use in a hotel for a specific time of the year. You go back and use that specific time every single year. So you go back to your hotel every single year for 1 week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks. Or through RCI, you can exchange your timeshare with, at that time, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of properties around the world. It's still growing like crazy in the United States and in other parts of the world. It's one of the most fascinating segments of the world's hospitality, because you actually own a piece of real estate, but only the piece of real estate that you actually use. So, for example, one of the things we used at that time is that if you buy a holiday home, so how many weeks you use it a year? 2, 3, 4 maximum. So timeshare was built in that purpose. If you only use something for 2 weeks or 3 weeks a year, why don't you buy only 3 weeks a year and pay 10% of what you would originally pay for a holiday home? That was the essence of timeshare. And then Crystal and John DeHaan came back and said, oh, why don't we make it even more interesting? Why don't we take that piece of ownership in Orlando and allow this person to exchange it with the same piece in Greece or in Spain or in Portugal or in the Dominican Republic? And that grew to be a business that Sendant, which was one of the world's biggest conglomerates at that time, paid $1 billion to buy.
Wow.
Great concept. I still own 2 weeks of timeshare myself, and my kids are using it every year. I learned a lot about the world of hospitality through RCI. We were all part of Wyndham Worldwide at some point. And then when Wyndham Worldwide spun off, it was Wyndham Vacation Ownership and RCI, which became Travel and Leisure. And it was Wyndham Hotels and Resorts that became the company that I have the pleasure and the privilege to actually work for at this point in time. That's the story and how it all happened.
Amazing, sir. So how would you like to be remembered?
I hope that I would be remembered as a better father than I was. I hope my kids one day, they will understand why I did what I did and why I was absent in so many birthdays and so many name days and celebrations. I want to be remembered as somebody who is like a little Lego, you know, somebody who left his own little brick on that wonderful Lego called hospitality. And obviously, I want my friends to remember me as a fun guy to be with. I've got I have the pleasure of having a lot of friends. I know that I don't spend a lot of time with them, but yeah, I want to be remembered as well as a guy that had a lot of fun. Horrible jokes, of course. People have to laugh with my jokes because they have to. That's the other thing about being a president. People laugh with your jokes, and they have to because they don't want to embarrass you. You're the boss. So that's a good thing. The other thing that and I'm going to say this because you made me be very open. Sometimes I used to say to my kids as they were growing up and said, "Oh, you missed another birthday," and I used to use this alibi saying, "But I did it for you." Actually, I didn't. I did it for me. I think success is a drug, and you want to be more successful. Not money. I don't have any vices. I don't like cars. I don't like, money is not but success is a drug because you want to be more successful. You want to become a better leader. And I used to say to my kids as they were growing up and they were complaining, I said, "Oh, but I did it for you. I did it for you to have a better education." In some extent, I did. But I did it because I'm still very selfish. I did it for me because I wanted to be a better leader. I wanted to be more successful. That is something that I learned. And I hope that as years go by and I'm coming at the end of my journey in life, I become a bit more humble because sometimes, success makes you selfish and egoistic. And I hope that I'll become a bit more humble. And I've got a lot of stories from people around me who taught me what humility and humbleness really means. And I learned a lot. And then one of the things that you asked me why I travel so much, because getting to meet people, you become a better person.
It's amazing, sir. So your favorite Wyndham hotel in the world?
What is your favorite child? My favorite Wyndham hotel in the world, it's probably, and I know the others are going to hate me for that. So every time I used to talk to my team, I still talk to my team, and I said, "Guys, we're in the franchise business. You have to, every single day, make the most for our franchisees." And I said, it doesn't matter how big or how small you are. If the guy, the general manager of Ramadan Diyarbakir is happy, then every franchisee is happy. And I've used the Ramada in Diyarbakir, which is in the borders of Turkey with Kurdistan. I use Ramada Diyarbakir every day. And one day, I was in a meeting in Turkey, and this guy shows up, and he said, Dimitri, let me introduce myself. I am the general manager of Ramada Diyarbakir. I hugged the guy and I cried. And I said, you won't believe how many times I've actually used your name. And he said, I know because people tell me. And I wanted to tell you, I am the general manager of Ramada Diyarbakir and I am happy. It was the best time in my life. I said, yes, the GM of Ramada Diyarbakir is actually happy. So every GM of Wyndham is happy. So that's my favorite hotel in Wyndham. I mentioned the Ramada Diyarbakir probably 1,000 times, and you can ask around my team; they will tell you. And when I finally went to Diyarbakir, I took a selfie outside the hotel name, and I said, I made it to Diyarbakir.
Wow. So lastly, any advice you'd like to leave me with?
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot. I think this the only thing, I mean, doctors and lawyers give advice. I can only tell you what I've learned. And I've learned the hard way. Success doesn't come easy. You got to work very hard. I used to go back home and failed class. And I used to say to my dad, he said, oh, you failed class, didn't you? I said, yes, I did. And I said, oh, the other guys were better prepared. He said, no, you were ill prepared. You didn't work hard. You know how it is to be the kid that nobody picks up at the football team when you're at the age of 8, 10, because you never worked too hard to be picked up at the football team? It sucks. It's a horrible feeling. And I was that kid. I was never picked up at the football team because I never cared to work hard enough to be part of the team. And when I realized that the reason that I wasn't picked up, it was because I didn't work hard, then my whole life changed. So work hard. And I know somebody's going to say, hold on, mate. There's billions of people out there that they work very hard, but they never advance in life. I know it's not always the answer, but I think that good things come to those who work hard. Every single biography that I've read in my life, the common denominator was work very hard. Michael Jordan, everybody says, oh, Michael Jordan, it's easy because he's the best basketball player in the world. Do you know that Michael Jordan, after 3 hours practice, he sat in the court for 1.5 hours every day and he shot 1,000 hoops constantly for 1.5 hours. Like, imagine somebody doing this for 1.5 hours, 5,000 or 1,000 times. And everybody said, yeah, but he's the best basketball player in the world. No, he worked very hard to be the best basketball player in the world. Keith Richards, I read his autobiography, sat on that guitar hours and hours and hours every day. Oh, yeah, but he's a member of the Rolling Stones. Everything comes easy to Rolling Stones. No. Keith Richards, at the age of 80, still plays that guitar for hours and hours because he needs to find a new tune, a new thing that is going to excite him. Work very hard. It won't come easy and it won't always result to success, but bloody work hard and good things will come.
This has been a very, very different episode and very, very insightful and a lot of learnings for me. And I'm truly grateful that you've taken this time out. And we'd like to invite you and your family to visit India with Bridge next time you're here.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much. And thank you.
Well,
thank you for this time, sir.
Thank you. And again, stop calling me sir, because the only sir I know is Sir Winston Churchill, which I mentioned. But I think vulnerability is important in leadership, and I've been very vulnerable today. But you made me recall a lot of things. And the older you get, the less time you've got to bullshit. So turning 60 was a big milestone for me. So
You are the youngest man in hospitality.
there you go. I love that. Good.
Thank you.